Good morning, everyone. Today, my discussion topic is odontogenic keratocyst. Uh, we will go into certain details about odontogenic keratocyst. First, we'll come to the introduction. This was described as cholesteatoma by Hauer and Kosteka in 1929. Later, it was termed as odontogenic keratocyst by Philipson in 1956. Described as keratocyst because of a large extent of the keratin formation. So because of this large extent of keratin only, it has been termed as odontogenic keratocyst. By the definition of WHO, it is a benign uni or multicystic intraosseous tumor of odontogenic origin, that is dental lamina and its remnant. Whenever we are talking about odontogenic origin, means some lamina, the dental lamina, like rests of Malassez, rests of Sere, we'll talk about. So cysts originating from that we will term as the odontogenic origin, with characteristic lining of parakeratinized stratified squamous epithelium and potential for aggressive and infiltrating behavior. Now, there are several controversies regarding the name odontogenic keratocyst, and which was started from 1971, as was previously classified under the developmental odontogenic cyst of jaw by WHO in 1971 and 1992. Now, OKC has been again reclassified as KCOT, keratocystic odontogenic tumor, in 2005 due to its aggressive behavior and also due to its neoplastic behavior. So, because of these two nature only, it has been reclassified as tumor. But again in 2017, WHO classified as cyst. Why it has been classified? Because of two reasons. Various researches and investigations showed that there is a gene called PTCH patch gene mutation happens in OKC. But the same gene is happening mutation also in dentigerous cyst, which is also non-neoplastic. So there is no connection between neoplasia and this patch gene mutation. So they have kept the OKC term from tumor to again cyst. Another thing is, if it is a cyst on mass utilization, it will resolve. But if it is a tumor on mass utilization, it won't resolve. But in case of OKC, as we all know, mass utilization is one of the mode of treatment. That means it can't be a tumor. For this reason only, WHO again reclassified it as from tumor to cyst. Now, why it is called OKC? This is the term we are giving as odontogenic keratocyst. Why? Keratocyst means keratin. So, mainly this characteristic feature of the cyst is keratin production. We will find on the cystic lining keratin. So, keratin produced by cystic lining. Second point, parakeratin line cystic lesion in the bone we will find. So it is one of the rare distinctive developmental odontogenic cysts from dental lamina. So we will, the moment we are finding as a keratin product produced cyst, we will think it is a odontogenic keratocyst. Now, if we are doing fine needle aspiration cytology, that time whenever we are taking that aspiration, we will find cheesy material. Now that is nothing but the keratin debris. So this is also a confirmed characteristic feature of OKC. Now coming to the epidemiology of OKC. It accounts for approximately 7.8% of all cysts of the jaws. It occurs in all age with peak incidence in second and fourth decade. Mainly slight male predilection you will find, common side mandible. Most commonly we will see in the mandible, in the posterior body of the mandible, in the angle of the mandible, half of the case we will see, and the ascending ramus. Now, involvement of the maxilla is also there, but in maxillary sinus it is very rare. That is less than 1% you will find it a maxillary sinus. Globulomaxillary area, third molar area, these areas also sometimes we will find OKC. Now, the general clinical features. Swelling with or without pain. It depends upon the size of that cyst. Discharge can be there. Displacement of the teeth can be there, which again sometimes differentiates from other odontogenic cysts which does not displace teeth. Occasionally paresthesia of the lower lip. Expansion of the cyst is very minimal in the initial stage, obviously, because the cyst, when it is small, It does not cause any expansion from outside. We won't find that it is causing any expansion. So we won't notice. First. Secondly, the direction is anteroposterior. That means the cyst goes anteroposteriorly. Like this it will go. So initially whenever it is enlarging also, outside we won't find out. So it is very difficult to diagnose in the initial stage. And it is minimal also. Very slow growing cyst it is. Now expansion of the buccal cortical plate will happen. 30% we will see in the maxilla in case, and in case of mandible it is more than maxilla, it is 50% we will see. Now clinical features. If the size of the OKC is smaller, if it is small size, obviously it will be asymptomatic. It will be discovered only during the course of a routine radiographic examination. Sometimes patient will come for some other chief complaint, but we will find OKC. If the size of the OKC is larger, it may or may not be symptomatic. If it is symptomatic, it will have pain, swelling, discharge. Paresthesia of the lower lip we will find if there is nerve compression. And it is a slow enlarging lesion. Repeatedly I am telling it is a very slow enlarging lesion. Now OKC tends to grow in anterior posterior direction with the medullary cavity of the bone without causing obvious bony expansion. In mandible, buccal and lingual plate will have expansion. In maxilla, only the buccal expansion. We have to remember this. Now, radiographic interpretation, well-defined unilocular or multilocular radiolucency with smooth margins. Displacement also sometimes we can see. Lesion may include impacted tooth. Now, if it is including the impacted tooth, it will have one differential diagnosis with the dentigerous cyst. Now, that will cause a dilemma to the pathologist that time. So, without histopathological examination, we can't confirm the diagnosis whether it is an odontogenic keratocyst or a dentigerous cyst. The expansion of the cortical plate with or without perforation. Now, here one picture is there. It is of maxilla. Not just particularly, it's maxillary sinus actually. So here we are seeing that odontogenic keratocyst in the maxillary sinus involving a third molar which has been pushed into the maxillary sinus. This is the CBCT of the same case. We will see here large destructive lesion involving lateral and posterior wall of the maxillary sinus. Totally it has been destructed. So it is a destructive actually, that aggressive and neoplastic behavior from this destructive characteristic only it came, which causes this much confusion and dilemma. Now what are the types of keratocyst radiologically? Actually there are 4 types. First is replacement type. That is replacing the tooth. Replacement means replacing the tooth. There will be no tooth or tooth birth in that place. Only the OKC will be there. That cyst will be there. Second, envelopmental type. Enveloping the unerupted teeth. The whole teeth will be engulfed or enveloped by this cyst. The third is extraneous type. The cyst will be away from the tooth. Generally in the ramus of the mandible we will find this cyst which will be away from the tooth. Fourth is collateral type, adjacent to the root of the teeth. In this slide, the 4 examples of these 4 types of radiological types of OKC has been given. First, we can see the replacement type where only the cyst is there. This is only the cyst, no tooth. Second, envelopmental type, you can see engulfing the whole tooth. The third, extraneous type, away from the tooth. This is in the ramus, totally it has been involved. Fourth, collateral, adjacent to the root of the tooth. FNSC, as I told, color will be cheesy consistency, whitish color, which will resemble the keratin debris, which is actually the keratin debris consistency, only the cheesy consistency will come. Now, aspiration of the cystic lesion, if we are aspirating and seeing in the cytology, we will find the squamous and abundant eosinophilic material. Squamous cells also will find, eosinophilic material will find, which will confirm some of the diagnosis. It is like OKC. But still, H&E, that is hematoloxin eosin stained section, is needed to confirm the diagnosis. Now coming to the histopathology, epithelium, how it will be? It will be stratified squamous epithelium, 5 to 8 cell layer thick. It can be parakeratinized or orthokeratinized. Mainly it will be parakeratinized. 80% of the case we will find it. No reticulus because it is a cystic lesion. Basal cells are columnar tube cuboidal, and obviously it should show palisading pattern. Connective tissue 1. Fibrous capsule of the cyst is usually thin. Many daughter or satellite cells can be seen, like small cysts, cystic type of cysts, small cysts will be in the connective tissue. And if we are not completely enucleating it or not destroying it, in further again it will recur. So if you are taking the cyst only but not the daughter cysts, again it will recur from that. Absence of inflammatory cell infiltration. Sometimes, rarely, we will find cholesterol clefts, melanin pigments, hyaline bodies, mast cells, mucous metaphyseal. As I mentioned, histological features, stratified squamous epithelium but no reti ridges, palisading pattern of the cells can see. Connective tissue is fibrous, thin fibrous. Okay. Now, what are the syndromes associated? Nevoid basal cell carcinoma, Walden-Gauge syndrome, Marfan syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, Newman syndrome, orofacial digital syndrome. So these are all the syndromes associated with mainly multiple OPCs. We will find out. Now the differential diagnosis. First, obviously, first and foremost, dentigerous cyst. Second, ameloblastoma. Third, central giant cell granuloma. Fourth, myxoma. Fifth, lateral periodontal cyst. If it is on the roots, beside the root of the tooth, we will sometimes having the dilem of the lateral periodontal cyst. If it is in the posterior region of the mandible, ameloblastoma can be because the site of preference. If it is including an unerupted dentigerous cyst, so there will be a dilemma. Only on the radiographic basis we will have this dilemma. Histopathology is mainly important to rule out the diagnosis. Without that, we can't confirm a cyst. Then there is globulomaxillary cyst, fibroosseous lesion. Fibroosseous lesion, that is a bone lesion, but still in its initial age it will be radiolucent. Initial, early stage. That time if you are taking the radiograph, you can't understand whether it is a fibroosseous lesion or it is a cystic lesion. Last is the treatment. There will be enucleation. We can do enucleation with Carnoy solution. Carnoy solution we use in OPCs mainly. Enucleation with peripheral ostectomy, enucleation with Carnoy solution and peripheral ostectomy, enucleation cryotherapy, marsupialization with cystectomy, and sometimes it also includes resection. So hope this short presentation will help you, and thank you for patience listening. Thank you so much.